This video is going to go over building two filters for a pond. The first is the bog filter, the second is the pre-filter. Both could work standalone. The bog filter is primarily for biological filtration, although it does do mechanical filtration as well. It's just a little more difficult to clean. The pre-filter is primarily to protect the bog filter to reduce the amount of particulate that goes into the bog filter. It, however, can also do biological filtration with the media inserted. This video covers both. It's a 2-for-1 video. Okay, I'm building a bog filter out of plant pots. After all, it's a plant's part of the bog that looks the best. The parts list is right here that I use. The thing about this bog is it sits above the pond and the water will flow up through the bottom and out the bottom. That keeps it quiet and it makes it look natural just being a plant pot because you don't see all these pipes flowing into it. So what you're looking at here is the main assembly for the input. Water will flow up the smaller white tube, hits a T, flows back down. I did not use glue when I put my stuff together. You can see some bits are tighter than others. The black pipe is shorter than the white pipe, so it just stays just off the bottom of the pot. I also drilled out holes along the bottom edge. That way it assures water can easily flow out of it into the bottom of the pot. The T piece is required so that it prevents a siphon effect should your pump turn off. You want a water void at the bottom of your filter so that when the water flows, starts at the bottom, flows up, all the solids collect there. To do that, I have a lid which I've drilled out. The 3 big holes allow the pipes to pass through it. Ideally, I would have had some standoffs to get maybe 2 or 3 inches worth of gap instead of have about 1 inch. On the bottom of my pot, I have 2 sets of adapters, one 3/4 inch and one 1 inch. These allow my pipes to just press right into them. Once the pump is connected, it pushes water up through the white pipe, it flows across into the T, and then gravity pulls it down through the black pipe. It then goes down into the void where it spreads out and flows back up through your pot. I used a bucket lid to separate my media from the void. A bucket lid floats, so I used rocks to hold it down. The bottom of the bucket is where the water flows in and out. A barb connector on the 3/4 inch diameter pipe is used to get the water in, and then a simple pipe extension on the egress side. If you use a uniseal, the one pipe would simply push all the way down and through. If you find any of your fittings are loose, Teflon tape is the magic answer for that. A few wraps of that will usually snug it up nicely. In this case, I have a Teflon slip fit to barb adapter that I use on my input, and it is definitely loose. 2 or 3 wraps of Teflon tape and it is nice and snug. All right, that's how I built the plumbing work in my bog filter. The key bit here is that the input and the output are spaced exactly the same as the hole where they fit into. Either you have a big enough gap to fit or they fit exactly. Okay, some exciting action shot here. The water flowing into the filter. You can see it flowing up and over and down into the larger pipe, down into the bottom. Maybe not so exciting. The height of the piping inside your filter is quite important. The stem pipe sets the water level. That's the pipe with the holes in it. That has to obviously be below the edge of your bucket. The input pipe also below the edge of the bucket. And the difference between it and the stem pipe establishes how much water would flow back into your pond if you had a power failure. So that's important. Anyway, near the top here, you can see it's starting to come into the drilled out cap, which is drilled out to prevent the media which floats from flowing back down into the pond itself. I did in fact change this. I still left the holes there, but I also cut a notch into the side of the stem pipe and then a notch into the cap so I could adjust it up and down. I found being able to adjust it allowed me to really reduce the gurgling noise that can happen. The biological media you choose is up to you. You can use lava rocks, LECA, store-bought, plastic K1 media, whatever you like. I chose LECA, the expanded clay pellets, because it's very light and it's not plastic. It will float in general. The one warning I will give about this is that it cannot freeze while it's wet. Otherwise, the water expands and breaks all the voids within it. The one trick, so there's nothing special about this. You have to clean it. One trick about cleaning it I will give is that I find it's easier to put it in water, shake, agitate it, take the LECA out of the water. The reason of this is all the fine dust actually sinks, whereas most of the clay pellets will not. And you only have to run through this once, maybe twice. If you instead put it in water, shake it up, and then try to dump the water out, the clay pellets just trap most of the fines and dust, and you have to do it 5 or 6 times. Okay, once you've got your media in place and your plants in the media, the go-to plant is the peace lily, the pothos are two of them. Next year I am going to try canna. I found the peace lily did really well indoors, but not outdoors. It just gets too cold at night where I live. Anyways, it's a matter of setting it over top of your pond. So you have probably 2 boards with maybe a gap between them, or in my case with drilled out holes where it just slides in. Would have been nice if I had the big hole where it was supposed to be, but it worked just fine nonetheless. Okay, building your input filter. Your input filter is used to prevent any stuff from getting into your pump and blocking it, causing it to jam the impeller. So basically you need, I use a pot, whatever container you have. If it's not a pot, then a box, whatever, and you need a lid. So step one is for me is to create the lid. I simply trace the outline of the pot. I then estimate the thickness of the walls and then cut that out. The lid has been drilled with lots of little holes. I'm just marking here where the hose comes out so I can drill a larger hole where both the hose and the power cord will come through the lid. All right, and just doing a quick dry fit here where you slide the power cord and then the hose through that hole. And you just want to make sure your lid is nice and tight. In my case, the pot has an inner lip on it, so it's nice and tight. That'll hold it in there so the fish can't pull the media out. So the lid stays in place, doesn't float away or get pushed away, and then all your media gets distributed all over your pond. So you can see it's tight here. That's what I want. It will fit on the inside, but it won't come past that lip. Cutting a simple slot in from the long edge to the hole allows you to twist the lid upon itself and then easily slide it in. Same thing with taking it out. You just pull those 2 edges together over the cut and you can easily take it out. The pump I'm using here is an 800 gallon per hour pawfly pump. The output from this actually runs to 2 bog filters. I split, run to 2. It is still a bit more hefty than I'd like. I should have had a bigger pot to keep using this pump and get more media in it. It's just easier to clean. But it's what I have. It works well enough for me. You might want to go with something half that size. And of course, it all depends on the size of your pond. The media I'm shoving in here is plastic scrubbies. Dirt cheap. Buy them at the dollar store. I think half dozen for $1. And they work really well. They capture fish poo quite well. And they prevent anything, ripped off plant fibers, whatever from actually being pulled into the pump and then jamming the impeller, which is exactly what I had happen before I put this pre-filter on. So that's one of the roles of these scrubbies. The other role is it's a media. It allows biological filtration to occur. So it hosts the bacteria and whatnot that deal with the ammonia and nitrite. One trick for this is to use a mesh bag to hold what you can, where you can fit it. So I'm using a zip tie here to cover the top, tie it in a knot if you have enough room, etc. Just makes getting them out as a group, less mess. It's easier to clean. Where I didn't have room for the bag, I put them in individually. All right, and the next layer you want is filter floss. This is really a fines filter. This is what catches the fine muck and actually polishes your water. Adding this means you have to clean your filter more often, but it does really keep your water clean. So a simple slit in a chunk of this polyfill, which I bought from Walmart. This is the very last bit I had. I've been using it for 3 or 4 years now. You can wash it. I do wash it. Half bucket full of water and just slosh it back and forth for 30 seconds, and it comes out quite clean. Clean enough to reuse, that's for sure. So you push your lid on, it snaps in place more or less because of that inner lip I have, and it's good to go. We're done. If it doesn't fit that tight, then just put some fairly large rocks, and that'll hold the lid down. Nice fish. So here I am simply hooking up to the two bog filters, the two blue ones on the right side. Put it in, you can see the hose, and I just hook it up to one of those barbs. In this case, the barb goes into a T, flows into two of the bog filters. The other two bog filters, the black filters, each have their own individual pre-filter with a small 300 or 400 gallon per hour pump, built exactly the same way. That's the pre-filter. Those are the bog filters. I find they work really well for me. My pond's 2 feet deep by 10 feet long by 5 feet wide. 6 feet wide. And the four filters work really well. I have to clean the input filter maybe once a month. I move this pond in winter and summer, or I typically do, and that's when I clean the bog filters because I happen to be moving them. I siphon them out through that T and then move them, and then do that 5 or 6 times, and that'll get it pretty clean. Or I pull the plants out, and then I actually just move all the LECA over into a bucket and clean it there. It's easy.